Welcome to my series where I am sewing a whole new wardrobe. I am making one piece of clothing every single month and I'm walking you guys through the process of how I do it. So I am beginner to intermediate. I have been self-taught, so a lot of my terminology may not be up to par, but I'm learning as I go. I'm bringing you along my sewing journey. Today, I am working on the Sid tie dress with sleeves. We're gonna be using a gingham fabric, and I'm gonna walk you guys through exactly how I do it. Already finished this. I'm doing this video afterwards. I actually made a Sid tie top, which I'm in love with. I highly recommend Sydney's patterns. They're so easy to follow and she's so sweet, and I love to hear her voice with her video tutorials, and her video tutorials are very thorough. They take you through every single step and I really loved making this pattern. So let's get into it.
I started by printing out my pattern and then taping the pieces together. I had a little friend help me because he always does, my little dusty boy. Then we cut out the pattern, and that is my fabric right there on the table. It is a gingham linen, and I really love the way it falls and lays with this specific pattern. It's so nice. So we got to cutting the fabric out, and I was pretty certain that I had laid everything out before, measured everything, we were good. But it turns out I was just a hair off. And right here is the moment I realized I did not have enough fabric. So thank goodness my very close friend, who actually taught me a lot about making my own clothes, she bought this fabric at the same time that I did.
We got the fabric from my friend. When I bought this fabric, she let me know that it was on sale and to grab it because they were discontinuing it. So she had just enough that I can use it for my binding and I can use it for this piece.
Cut out that last piece and then I did the binding pieces. So now we'll get to sewing. I started off by doing a reinforcing stitch along the neckline, and then I sewed the darts in place. I had never done darts before, so this is a new one. I did mess up, but that's okay. Totally part of sewing. And after that, I did the shoulder seams, a straight stitch on there, and then I did a zigzag stitch to finish it off. I sewed the sides together with right sides touching.
I personally don't like to iron. Where I can skip it, I will. So with the ties, I just fold it over myself and I don't iron it. I don't want to have to take out the iron. I know I will in a minute, but if I can avoid it, I do. If you are just getting started, iron. If you've been doing this for a while, maybe you're good with the ironing. So I take it, I fold it, come in one edge, take the other edge and fold it in, and then fold that in half. And that is it. And then we sew.
I used a straight stitch right along the tie.
Now we have 4 ties that are ready to be put on.
With the pattern, you want to make sure that you cut those notches in your fabric because that's going to tell you where to pin these ties. So they are pointing towards the armpit, which seems weird, but once you finish, it's good. Once everything is pinned in place, now you're going to start working on the neck binding. Sydney has a really, really great tutorial for this. I'm not good at explaining it, but you can kind of see my walkthrough with it. Her notches help to really make sure that you don't mess up with it. And as long as you have those notches, you cut out everything correctly, everything will lay perfectly. Now I am sewing the closure of the dress. Since it's not a top, I did have a closure in the front and finishing off those ties.
The next step is to take the sleeves and do 2 rows of basting stitches along the places where the notches are. So you're not going to go all the way from one side to the other, you're just going in between those notches. As you can see, I did 2 rows and we're doing it for both sleeves. The next step is to create the basing for your sleeve. So you're going to take the edge of both sleeves, fold it over about 1/2 inch, and then fold it over again about 3/4 of an inch. And that will make a casing for your elastic to go into. I left an opening so that I can stick the elastic through the casing, and then once it's all the way through, you'll see how it feels on your arm, and from there you can choose how much elastic you'll use. I like to try it on and then pull the elastic in place, make it so that it will stay up, no problem on your arm, but not be too tight. Then take the sleeve, make it right side out, and touch it with the right side of your blouse. So put it inside and sew it in place. I sewed it so that the stitches of the gathering would not show through the shirt, but you can do it either way and just pull out your gathering stitches later on. Well, I'm an idiot because I sewed these pockets together before they were on the skirt, serged the edges, and that was not what I was supposed to do. So we're gonna undo that. This was my first time sewing pockets into a skirt, so I did not know what I was doing, but now I know. So I seam ripped all those stitches, serged the edges of the pocket by itself, and then that is where you attach it to your skirt and sew both of the sides of the skirt with the pocket together. This is where those notches that you cut in the beginning when you cut out your fabric come really in handy. You will use your notches to make sure your pockets are in the right spot, pin them in place, and then sew them on. I took 1/2 of the pocket, attached it with pins to the skirt, and then sewed it in place. And you'll do the same to the other side, and as well as the 2 other for the other side of the skirt. Once the pockets are in place, you will do a top stitch on top of the pocket. This will be on the right side. What you'll see on when you go to put your hand in the pocket, you will see this stitch. And you'll take both sides of the skirt and match right sides touching and pin it all along the sides of the pocket and along the sides of the skirt, and then you'll sew all along those edges. As you can see here, I sewed it all in place, so we are nearing the end. I finished off the edge of the bottom tier after sewing both sides together. I did a zigzag stitch, and then I added 2 rows of basting stitches along the top of that tier so that I can gather that skirt and attach it to the top tier of the skirt. I am now pinning those 2 in place. Make sure that the right sides are touching, and then sew it in place. You can either sew under the basting stitch, or if you miss some of those basting stitches, you can always remove them later. And then we're going to do that top tier. You'll do again 2 rows of basting stitches. I have my top. This is the back. This is the front. Obviously, it is upside down. And I'm going to take it, put it into this skirt, which is inside out, and it's been gathered. I'm going to take the top, put it inside, and then I will match the side seams with the side seams of the skirt. So I'm taking this one, matching it up to this side seam, pinning it in place, and then taking the other side and pinning that in place. So I gathered it up already, but it's a bit too small what I gathered, so I'm gonna stretch it out a little to make it the same size as the top, because the top needs to be straight, the skirt needs to be gathered. Okay, looks good. So we will pin it in place now.
Once you get it all pinned in place, then you will sew the skirt to the bodice. Make sure right sides are touching.
It is. This is what it looks like right now. All I have left to do is to hem it. That's all I have left. And then it's done. For the hem, I can't remember exactly how big I made the hem, but I'm pretty sure I folded it over a 1/2 inch, and then I did 1.5 inches. So it's kind of a thick hem. I crocheted and sewed in loops to go on the side, and I cut a piece of fabric to make a long tie so that I could tie it at the waist in the back. And I am in love with it. It is so beautiful. I want to make one in every color, and I may just do that. What do you think I should make next? I am thinking I'll be making a skirt tutorial this week or so, but what else should I make?